Well, welcome everybody to another Chewing the Fat with Friends. Hello, Karen. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Deb?
I am doing very well, thank you. And tonight we've got Ken Harding with us. Hey, Ken. How's it
Okay.
Hi there. Hi, everyone.
going? He's tuning in from Aussie. Whereabouts in Aussie are you, Ken?
I'm in Mudgee, a little country town about 3.5 hours northwest of Sydney over the mountains. We're
Oh,
in wine country.
oh, lovely. Good place to be. Good place to
Yeah.
be. So no, it's great to have you with us, Ken. So just for everyone's benefit, I met Ken, or Karen and I met Ken quite recently actually, and that's been on our journey with Lifewave with the X39 patches. And we've got to know Ken quite well. He and his wife Misha Harding have been great supporters of Karen and I. And we're all mad about the technology, the phototherapy frequency technology, which is just taking the world by storm. And so I'm sure we'll get onto that with you, Ken, as well. But
Yeah.
a big part of our chat today is also going to be around resistance work, bodybuilding, because you've been doing that. We'll get to that too, but you've been doing that all your life, basically. And as you know, Karen and I are currently running a 6-month challenge in the Food and Frequencies Network for our members, and that's called Turn Back the Clock. And a big element of this challenge that's different from our usual ones is that we are bringing movement in. So we're focusing a lot more on movement and exercise, and
Yeah.
that's not really our laneway.
It's very important. Yeah.
But it's really important. You're right. So
Yeah.
it's not our laneway. So we're bringing in people to share their expertise with us. And we've done some great things, haven't we, in the membership, Karen? We've done a qigong workshop. We've had a fantastic introduction to fitness for life with Joanne Webb.
Yeah.
And we've had Wendy. We're learning about fascia work. I mean, that's fascinating as well. Working with your fascia.
Mhm.
That that holds all your body together, really. But
Yeah.
but it would be great to get a bit more of an understanding of what's involved really with getting into more working with weights and resistance and even bodybuilding, especially for those of us who haven't really delved into it too much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's always a bit scary when you start picking up weights. You can do damage. You can do injury to yourself, and there's a right way and wrong way of doing things. So we're,
There
we're
is.
yeah, we're excited to get you in for the workshop next week, Ken, and take us through, those sort of do's and don'ts and help us work out how to set our own programs effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
Oh.
will be
Well, I can talk about, what I do and that sort of thing. I've been a personal trainer for over 30 years.
right.
Been in the fitness industry since I was roughly 17. I'm 66 now. So that's quite a while. I've managed fitness centers and aquatic centers and all those sorts of things. I've done a lot of work with rehab with doctors and hospitals and things like that. Yeah, you could say I've been involved most of my life. Yeah.
Has there been many days of your life that you haven't been working out?
Not many, no. Only if something like work gets in the way. But yeah, I know when the kids were born, I sort of slowed down a bit then and that type of thing. But pretty much I've been there. Yeah, if I wasn't working at the time, I was training or training other people.
Mm. But
Yeah,
you've got a really good base strength.
I
Um,
think so. Yeah.
yeah, you must do. And so what's your advice to someone like me I call myself a yo-yo exerciser, like I actually really quite enjoy weights and I enjoy that feeling of fatigue. But my history with exercise has been so hit and miss. I'll go hard out on something and then I just drop it completely and I become quite sedentary. And then I pick something up again and quite often I'll injure myself early on, and then that's why things stop, kind of thing. So, how safe is it for us to be working with weights when we haven't been regularly?
Well, basically, let me just start from the beginning. When we get someone new join and want to, like yourself, want to start, they might be doing it for the first time. We sort of take them through all the machines. We show them how they operate, how to operate, because if you put your finger in the wrong place, you can sort of do yourself some damage, especially with things like pin-loaded machines. It's a little bit more easier with free weights or dumbbells and barbells and things like that. But there's a lot of different sorts of machines in fitness centers these days. If you're not going to a gym and you're doing stuff at home, well, then you've just got free weights. Could be tin of soup you've got in your hand and you're doing something with, it doesn't have to be a weight as such as a dumbbell or a barbell, but they're designed for a reason, and they're a certain size to hold in the hand and things like that. So it just makes it a little bit more controllable and a little bit more comfortable for new people starting out. Now, new people starting out, usually they join a gym, or they start out with all good intentions, and you usually find that I usually try and promote that if someone's starting out new, you want them to start them out on something that they feel comfortable with and they enjoy doing. Now, if you just put them on a treadmill and it's just running and they're not a runner, they're going to get very, very bored of that very, very quickly, and you won't see them again. So you've got to give them things that they find enjoyable to do. And I find that if 3 weeks in, if you can go regularly for 3 weeks, you're over the threshold, and you've got a good chance of staying on. People that drop out are usually within those 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if
3 weeks, really, that's amazing, actually.
yeah.
Because some people pay for their gym memberships for months on end, and
Well, you
pay
pay
for
sign
the
up
averages,
for
they drop out after 3 weeks.
yeah, you sign up for 12 months and they keep it and they think, well, I can always go back and that sort of thing. But
Right.
no.
Right.
And amazing things happen once you start. Um, you'll find that if you haven't done much weight work before and you start lifting weights and you think, oh, well, I can lift this amount of weight. Um, in 5 weeks' time, because the muscles just don't get used in those particular ways, we use muscles in our day to day, walking around and picking things up and getting in and out of cars and things like that. But once you start concentrating on weights and lifting them, you'll find that your strength will increase probably 50% in the first 5 to 6 weeks.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. And that's because
How often is that doing it? How often do you do it in a week?
I would say, I like to say 3 to 4 times a week.
Right.
Yeah. And
And
I mean, some people will do it 5 times a week, have the weekend off. And depending on what you're doing, once you start getting into it, you want rest days, because the muscles won't grow unless they have rest. They grow when they're resting. So you need that break in between to create the result that you want.
and that is specifically lifting some weights, right? As opposed to your body resistance. Every
Well,
weight.
yeah, body resistance is a great way of training. We do we used to do workshops in Sydney. We just and take clients through just body workout sessions where there's no weights involved. They just use their own body. So there's all different types of things, that you can do that. Like squatting and that sort of thing with just using your own body weight to work the legs. Yeah. Hmm.
So, and do you think it's worthwhile starting that way and then moving up to incorporating weights if you haven't been doing too much?
It depends on the person. If the has some injuries, and that's the main reason why they want to get into it, or their doctor or their physio are suggesting things, they might give them rubber bands to work with and things like that. A lot of physios like bands and that. It works both ways. Weight, it works when you're lifting it up, but when you let it down, it probably free falls. You've got to hold it back. But with the band, it works both ways. If you let it down slowly, you've still got that resistance with both movements of the phase of the exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of quite a recent development, aren't they? The bands, like I think they're fantastic, especially when they're attached to like bars for pull-ups, right? Because
Yeah.
the amount of people that, I mean, I couldn't even attempt to pull up, but when I see a band there and I've got a little bit of assistance, it feels so good because you do actually get there, and it's like,
It,
yeah, and
it,
it's training the muscles in the right way.
yeah,
And then you can just change that resistance with the band. They're brilliant.
yeah.
I don't, but they're a fairly recent thing that I've seen in gyms, like,
Oh, they've been around a long time.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
I just don't go.
There's a lot of machines now, like chin ups or pull ups, what you call them, where it's you put your knees on a padded section, and it's pin loaded, so you can add weight, so you can take that amount of weight off your own body weight when you're doing a lift or something like that. So there's lots of different things are out there these days to help and assist with doing a chin up. And a chin up is a pretty hard thing. You don't see too many people doing them because they are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So look, hey, just on the topic of machines versus free weights, I was sort of under the impression that doing machines isn't as good for you because it doesn't the movement is so kind of tightly controlled and isolating certain muscles that that the added gain of working with free weights is that you do wobble, and so you're actually training the little ligaments as well around joints, and there's a real benefit to that, right?
That's true. There's different types of machines. Some are really restrictive. Some are like what we call pin loaded machines. So it's just a pin you slot in on a plate under a plate, and if you're using both hands to do an exercise, um, it doesn't matter if you took this one hand away, this hand will still lift the same amount of weight. You know what I mean? But then you have other machines, hammer strength machines and things like that, where you actually put weight on each side of the thing. So if you're doing a press, you've got 20 kilos on this arm and 20 kilos on this one. It's not 20 kilos in total, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's better for balance and that. But I would sort of probably recommend people to do maybe a machine type thing just to start with.
Right.
And a lot of the machines are designed just to take you through the range of motion, so you can't really go too wrong with it. It'll only go one particular way. With the free weight, again, start off light, and as you said, you're working a lot of smaller muscle groups that aren't necessarily the major group that you're working. So it works on your balance and your core strength and all those things. Those smaller areas outside the main muscle groups that particular exercise is working. So it helps all over. Full-bodied exercises, sometimes we call them. So when you're doing an exercise, you're not just working the major prime mover. It might be chest or arms or something like that, but you're working your shoulders and your back and your neck, and everything is all getting worked in that exercise.
Mm.
Yeah.
But with free weights, there's a more a chance of doing things wrong as well, isn't it? And
Well, it can be. As I said, we were talking about squats. Squats is a fairly it's an exercise you have to be careful with. Otherwise, you can hurt your back because the weight is on around about C7 across your shoulders. You're holding a bar like this, and you're sitting backwards sort of thing, and then pressing up with the legs to work the different muscle groups in the legs. If you don't do them right, you can sort of do injuries and things like that. You stretch things and tear slight muscles and things like that. So it's just a matter of taking it slow, starting off light, and if you can have someone to show you or watch it on YouTube or something like that, a demonstration. But there's always usually someone in the gym. They usually have people there that can just watch you, and a personal trainer might watch you for 5 minutes and not charge you, just to make sure you're doing the right thing. I know I certainly would anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
and is it essential to, when you are working with heavier weights and getting more serious about it, to work with a partner, like to have someone spot you? That's
It,
generally
it
what,
is good, and again, it depends on the exercise that you do. Um, but yeah, if you've got, and that's another good incentive to train. If you've got a partner that's going to the gym with you,
yeah.
you keep each other motivated and that type of thing. You someone might be big and strong and someone might be a bit smaller and not as strong, but you all work at your own pace and you change the weights as you swap over. I trained with a partner for a number of years, a long time, and it is beneficial and it's more motivating. If you need someone, if you need something to motivate you, another training partner. I mean, you might be thinking, oh, I've got to go to the gym this afternoon, and you think, oh, I could drop out. I don't really need it, and then you think, oh, my mate's going to be there, so I've got to be there. I've got to be there for
Yeah.
them and that sort of thing. So it's a little bit more motivating and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it can be if you're doing heavy weights and things like that, you've got someone behind you to help you lift the weight and that type of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot more when you're starting out. It's and you're doing heavy weights. Once you become more experienced, you know what you can lift. You're always trying to push yourself a little bit more, but you know when to put it down before you get into trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. So what's your advice for someone, sort of wanting to start out, without going into too much detail, because we'll be covering this off in the workshop, no,
Sure.
I imagine. But for someone starting out and maybe they don't belong to a gym and they want to get themselves to a point where they're starting to work with weights, um, yeah, and they haven't done it for a while, right? Or maybe they do a lot of walking or that kind of thing, but not so much strength work. Where
Yeah.
do they start out?
Well, depending on what their goals are, what they want to achieve. If people want to get just fitness and they want to get, so they can, um, not get out of breath when they're, walking up a hill and things like that. It's more cardio type things. So it's things that you can do, go for a walk, pick up the pace a little bit. And if you like, walk for a minute and try and jog for a minute, walk for a minute, jog for a minute, and then you gradually build that up. And you might even get to the point where you pick up the speed and that sort of thing. To make an exercise, and it doesn't matter what it is, but to make it beneficial and to make it work, I always work on perceived rate of exertion. Now, all that is I'll say to someone, I'll give them a task to do, and a weight or a walk or a run or whatever, doesn't matter what it is, and I'll say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard is that?
Mm.
And if someone says, "Oh, that's a 4 or a 5," well, that's something they can sustain for a long period of time, and the body's used to that amount of effort, so the body doesn't have to change. So
Mm.
what we say is, I like to work people on around about a 7. So that means it's taking out of your comfort zone. Your body's got to do a little bit more effort, and it has to change. You might feel a little bit sore the next day, but it's what we'll talk about this one later on, but it's all about muscle fibers slightly tearing and repairing and growing and that type of thing. But you don't want to be certainly running at a 9 or a 10, and that, especially first up, that's something that you look specialized training and things like that. And it's only done for a very, very short period of time.
Yeah.
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 But
I like that.
yeah. So, and if it was weights and that sort of thing, if they don't want to be a part of a gym where there's probably help there, they're doing things at home. If they can buy a second set of dumbbells or go around a garage sale, there's usually exercise equipment for sale at every garage sale. So, and you buy something, you can always, if you're not sure, you can always look online and look up that particular exercise, and there's millions of things out there, people showing you how to do it and do it correctly and that type of thing. But don't overdo it. As I said, work on that rate of exertion. How hard is this? You want to be working around about a number 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Just quickly on equipment, you can get those ones where you can kind of alter the weight on a handheld or dumbbell
Yes.
or heavy
Yeah.
cane. How do you rate those? Is that compared to getting solid weights in one, weight? And
The solid weight, what you're talking about, like, I mean, you can, those handheld ones where you just put on additional plates and that type of thing, they tend to get a bit big and bulky because you're adding things to them all the time. And they tend to be not as comfortable to use, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Whereas if you've got a dumbbell and it's 5 kilos, the next one you pick up might be 7.5, rather than, and it doesn't rattle around or it's solid. It's in the hand. It's not loose and jiggles around and things like that. I feel more comfortable with a proper fixed weight, and whatever that may be. I mean, you can go to a sports store and you can buy I want some 5 kilo dumbbells, I want some 7.5s, I want some tens, and you know what weight you're going to be working at. Each muscle group you'll push more or less with a particular muscle group. The bigger the muscle group the body has, the stronger you will be. So the bigger weight you will need. I mean, our legs are by far our strongest muscle group in our body. They carry our body weight around all day long, so they're fairly strong. Next is our back, then it's chest, it's triceps, biceps, and that type of thing. So as the muscle
When
group,
you say, when you say legs, that includes the glutes, obviously.
glutes, hammies, all sorts of things. Yeah, everything sort of gets worked. I see people get on a leg press machine and they've got 20 kilos on it and they're pressing 20 kilos. And I'll say to them, you could be doing quite a bit more than that. Oh, no, this is it. And I said, what do you weigh? Oh, I weigh 80 kilos. I said, well, your body's comfortably carrying 80 kilos around all day long, so you can do more than 20.
Yeah.
But I do it in a kind way. Yeah.
Okay, so carrying on from what Deb was saying about if someone wants to do exercise at home,
Yes.
is there an equivalent of something like the leg press that you could do from home to really strengthen? So, because if you're, as you're saying, you're quite rightly saying, you're saying that in you're doing a leg press, we should be able to do quite a lot more than say 20 kilos, and we do know that if you have really strong glutes and thighs, that actually, in fact, they're the longevity muscles.
Mhm.
So the more you exercise those, the more longevity we're going to have. What can we do at home, just as an example, to strengthen
Um,
those?
yeah, well, I guess you're going to need some sort of equipment. Legs is a
Yeah,
kind of thing. I mean, you can just sit there and squat up and down with using your own body weight for a period of time. Once the reps get up there, your legs are going to start really
yeah.
feeling it. Yeah,
So
that's
it's more reps then.
more reps, and that's what we call endurance training. So
Right.
that's what you see athletes do. Okay. So that's not going to really, it's going to build the muscles and that sort of stuff, but it's not going to give you a lot more, a lot of strength. Well, strength is strength training. So that's a heavy weight doing 2 or 3 reps.
Right.
Hypertrophy training is that's where you want muscle growth and shape and that. You can shape the body to be any shape you want by exercising and doing the right exercises. So 10 to 12 is going to create muscle growth. And when you're doing 15 to 20 reps, like if you're squatting up and down, just using your own body weight, that's what we call endurance or that type of training. So it's going to tone the body up, and free you up and that type of thing. Yeah, it's more like if you're running, a marathon runner runs at a pace that they can run on for hours and hours. And then you've got sprinters and that sort of thing. They run, 11 seconds over 100 meters and those sorts of things. It's a similar sort of thing, only you're doing it with weights rather than just, track type field exercises. Yeah.
Cool.
But squats and things like that would probably be the simplest thing to do for a leg thing. There are cables that you can buy. I know when COVID hit and they shut down all the gyms, I went and bought myself a set of cables, and that's a strap that you support from a beam, and they've got handles on them. And they usually come with a chart with a lot of different exercises on them. And you're using your own body weight there. You're suspended sometimes, or you've got your feet on the ground. But you can do some pretty amazing exercises with just a set of cables. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so you could stand on the cable, couldn't you, and make it quite tense. So then you squat up, and the resistance is
Yeah, yeah,
like,
but well, they're bands.
oh,
Cables are just straps that don't stretch.
oh,
But,
okay.
but bands and things like that are good. I mean, you can just sit in a chair and
Mm,
do all sorts of things with bands. You can stretch it up over your head, so you do, triceps and things like that with bands. And depending on where you position your hands on the bands, you make it harder or easier and that sort of thing. Um, with your legs, a lot of girls, they use bands um, for leg workout and things like that. Um, um, they tend to add more shape and definition to the legs. Yeah, most girls say, "Oh, look, I don't want to get big and muscly." Well, most girls don't have to worry about that because they don't have a lot of testosterone like a lot of guys do, and they will tend to tone up what is, and that's more what they want, make the muscles look more long and elegant. Um,
mm,
uh, it just adds more shape and things like that to the muscle, which has that effect. Probably what they're trying to achieve. Yeah.
yeah. So is it advisable for women to focus more on the endurance and the other one? What was the middle one called?
Oh, there's endurance and there's as I said, there's three types of training. You've got endurance for long, like over a long period of time, whether it be squatting 20 reps or running for, a K or two. You've got what they call hypertrophy training, which is um, 10 to 12 reps or, whatever you're doing. And then you've got really, really strength training, which is low reps and heavy weights, that type of thing. But most women can benefit from any of that. I mean, I've had girls that want to get strong, and I've had girls that competed in different sort of events, state and national, and they were lifting weights too. It's just depending on what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve with your exercise, if that
Mm.
makes some sort of sense.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of the people in our community are like Karen touched on it. We're looking for longevity.
Yes.
I think a lot of us who are in our 40s, 50s, 60s, we understand that to do weights is good for our bones, good for our metabolism, good as we age. They're gonna help us stay younger and stronger for longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think, they're necessarily interested in, bulking out necessarily, but is that the sort of work that they need to do in order to build muscle quickly and strengthen bones? Or would they be better off staying, starting in the middle one or the
Yeah.
endurance?
If they just want to do it for general health, Um, they don't have to go hard or anything else like that. It's more the traditional endurance type sorts of things, higher repetitions and things like that. Okay. If they want to put on a bit of size, some guys want to put on a bit of muscle and things like that. I mean, that's really important once we start to age because we lose a lot of muscle tissue. So it's really important for male and female to have a reasonable amount of muscle tissue so we don't lose it as we age. And then, I mean, I used to go to nursing homes and just teach older people how to get out of the chair without falling over and things like that, and just use their strength getting out of the chair, walking around just for general things. But when we're in our 40s and 50s, we don't have those sorts of problems. It's just every day we want to be able to run with the kids and play soccer with the kids, and we want to be able to do those things. So it's it's just a combination of cardio work for heart lung type sort of exercises, and again building a little bit of strength and that sort of things in the muscles and in the legs and the back and that sort of thing. It's doing things correctly so we don't hurt ourselves. And you'd be surprised. I mean, they used to say that the number one exercise, the number one thing people hurt themselves, hurt their back with, was starting a lawnmower.
Huh, really?
That's,
Or playing
yeah.
golf.
Well, I don't know about the golf, but certainly it was lawnmower. And what it is you're bending over and you're sort of side onto the lawnmower and you're coming up and you're twisting. So they're muscles that don't normally get used in our day-to-day lifting and walking around and things like that. So they're those secondary muscles that really need to be exercised and trained a bit to stop you having injuries as you age. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, yeah. But as I
definitely.
said, you can change the shape of your body with exercise. Food and that sort of thing obviously is important. But yeah, I've had people go from 145 kilos down to 98 kilos in 4 months
Right. Wow.
just by exercise and eating right and that sort of thing.
Eating
So
right's always got to come first. And, I used to be one of these people that resisted that. I was like, oh, no, no, burn the calories off, do the exercise.
yeah,
But
yeah.
since I've been in Karen's world, I've realized I was wrong.
Well, I mean, eating's a big part. I mean, eating's
Very
70%
big.
of it, and
Yeah.
training is just to finish it off and do
Right.
it. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
you,
Icing on the cake, Ken, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's
it
really
is,
nice
it is,
icing.
it is. It's just putting those final touches on the body and giving you that little bit of shape that you like, and losing a little bit of weight there and that sort of thing. They say you can't train a particular area, especially body fat area, because we burn body fat all over the whole body at the same time. You
Yeah.
can't just work on your midsection and lose it on your midsection. You lose it all over the whole body. But it's a combination of eating right and drinking good water, lots of good sleep, and moderate exercise, and you can't go wrong.
So would
Hey,
you say that that you can start exercising whatever age you're at, and you just have to start where you're at and then gradually build up, and then you could literally, no matter what age you're at, you can literally turn back the clock.
Yeah, I think so. And I think for those people that have started, I see people that, some people like myself started when they were a teenager and have done it all their life. And I really think that I see people my age getting around in with a walking stick and things like that. I mean, I go for a run, I do all sorts of things. There's nothing stop me. Um, and with the patches, I feel like I'm 17 again. I really do. It's pretty crazy. But at any age, you can turn things around, you
I
know.
believe.
Um, Once you start eating right and doing the right things, looking after yourself, and then including exercise, it's amazing. And you hear of people calling other people that go, they're gym junkies. It's almost like a drug. Once you get hooked and you see results and you like what you see, you just can't stop.
and
You
you
just
like
want
how you
to
feel.
you just
Yeah.
want to keep improving and looking after yourself, and you're feeling great. It's just it's just like a high that you get, a nice high. Yeah. And that can be at any age. You can be 70 and start um, doing things gradually and just building things up, and before you're knowing it, you turned the clock back 10 years and that type of thing. It's just your physical strength increases and that sort of thing. If you want to be building bone densities and things like that, well, you don't want to leave it too late. The damage is done before you even start. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it all comes down to mindset, doesn't it?
it does. That's
The amount of people I hear around me still saying, oh, well, it's just getting old, isn't it? It's just that aging stage where it's all downhill from here. And
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
are you doing?
What a load of bunkum. I remember seeing when I was seeing people in clinic, I used to get people coming in, used to take their details,
Yes.
and they're in their early 40s, some,
Mhm.
okay, you got any health issues? No, not really. What do you mean not really? Oh, I've got a few aches and pains. I've got a sore leg or sore hip, got a sore knee, whatever. And I go, but that's age, they say. And I'm going,
Yeah,
what? At 40? Really?
yeah.
There's
Well,
no way. Because I don't believe that we should ever expect to have aches and pains, because if we do have aches and pains, our body's trying to tell us something,
exactly, exactly. You
And
know,
it's just
um,
a messaging system, isn't it, really? Telling us, right, you need to do something about this, you know?
yeah. It's telling you that you've let yourself go and you shouldn't have been there
Yeah.
in the first place.
Yeah.
But you can correct things.
Yeah.
I used to get new clients come into the gym and they'd be doing a program for them, and I'd go through a sheet on them, and I'd get their age and just general information. Yeah, any medication? Oh, yeah, I'm on this and I'm on this and I'm on this and this and this, and they're 40-year-old and they're on a handful of pills. Um, I've got high blood pressure. I've got all sorts of things, um, and it's kind of weird. I don't want to bag out the medical profession, but I've had people come to me with high blood pressure and they said, I want to do some stuff for blood pressure. And I had one lady there, and she was going great, coming, turning up all the time and training hard all the time, that sort of stuff. Anyway, she went away on holidays and she said, I'll be away for a couple of weeks. And I said, oh, okay, enjoy yourself, have a ball, And she come back and she turned up was starting getting into it again. I said, how was your holiday? And she said, oh, it was good except for the trip to the hospital. And I said, what do you mean the trip to hospital? And she said, I passed out. I said, oh, really? And she said, yeah. She said, when I got to the hospital, they checked me out and my blood pressure was too low. And I said, yeah, well, she said, um, I said, I know what it is. I said, you're exercising, your blood pressure's been reduced and you're still on your high levels of medication,
Mm.
which is reducing it even more. Well, she passed out 2 or 3 times before her doctor started reducing her blood pressure. He
That's
didn't want to take
shocking.
it off it. He didn't take into consideration that she was exercising and she was doing something herself to reduce it. And once you're on it, they don't like taking you off it. They reduce it and reduce it. But yeah, yeah. But you can change and adapt, move your body into a different level of fitness and health and yeah, turn the clock back like you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, so look, let's just have a little chat about the patches too before we finish up, because I consider you both for different reasons perfect case studies for starting with the X39 patches, because Karen basically has been on the same kind of diet and has her regular walk every day and that kind of thing. She does the same things every day for the last 4 years with her diet,
Yeah.
and the only new thing she introduced was the X39, and she's had some fantastic results from that. I consider you the same because you've been working out consistently all your life, so
Yeah.
the only new things you added, when did you start? A couple of years ago?
I started about 23 months ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about how you found what changed for you physically and in your fitness and strength and energy levels, when you started with the X39, and then maybe we'll talk about the X49 as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I'm going to tell you is just my own personal experience. I I was very skeptical at first. Most males are at things like this. Um, my very first day with the patch, I went to work. I did a 14-hour day, come home from work, and I had heaps of energy left. I was bouncing off the walls.
Mm.
That was the first thing. I had heaps of energy was what the patch gave me straight up.
Okay. Everything.
After, yeah, after about 7 weeks, I was working up at our house in Casino. I was building a fence and I was squatting down, standing up, squatting down, standing up, screwing panels onto the posts and things like that for a day and a half. And then I noticed I had no pain in my knees. I used to get a bit of a pain in my knee if I was doing things like that. And that's probably because I've worn them out in the gym over the last 45 years. But yeah, no pain in my knees. I had arthritis in a couple of finger joints, and that's something I didn't envisage, and all the pain has just gone out from that. I had, and this is something for the guys, I had a bit of a prostrate thing, enlarged prostrate. When I turned 60, I never saw a doctor from the age of 15 till 60.
Wow.
I had no record of me being on anywhere. Anyway, I only started going to the doctors at 60 because someone said you should go and get a regular checkup once you turn that age. So I went in and had some blood tests taken. They said my PSI was a little bit high. And they asked, family history with prostate things and stuff like that. I said my brother had a little bit of a problem with it. So I had biopsies taken, everything come back normal, but I had what they call the enlarged prostate, which is pretty common in people from that age onwards and just gets worse. I found that after being on the patches, that all turned around and went back to normal.
So you got it tested again
Yeah,
after
yeah.
how many
And
months?
my blood results were a lot better, and my PSI levels were down.
And so how
I've
many months had been using them before you got tested
oh,
again?
I've probably been on it 12 months at that stage.
Mhm.
Um, I They say that you patch for every 10 years of life, so a month's patching for every 10 years of life. I
Minimum.
find that once I had gone over that, and I went over that a long time ago, um, things happen to your body that you are unaware of. And I won't talk about myself. I was always allergic to bee stings. And here a few months ago, we were walking the dog in the park and I just brushed up against a flowering hedge thing and I got hit in the shoulder by two bees and they were still hanging there and I brushed them off and the stings were hanging out. Misha pulled them out with her fingernails. Um, Normally I would swell up and be in a lot of pain and then it would get really itchy and be a big red lump there for a couple of days. After no more than 10, 15 seconds, the pain had completely gone. There was nothing. Now, I've
Wow.
never experienced that in my life. I haven't been stung by a bee for a long time either, but and I can only put that down to the patches. And I
Oh,
was
and
totally
no other reactions, no swelling
no,
up.
nothing at all. And that's never happened before. And I think that's things that I think the patches are still working, even though you may not notice the changes. And it's only when something like that happens, you think, wow, like Misha used to suffer from vertigo. And
Mm.
then someone said the other day about vertigo, it fixed my vertigo. And Misha said, oh, I haven't had vertigo for ages since it's been patching. So there's things that don't
Mm.
come up on a day-to-day basis that you're unaware of. And when they do come up, they just don't happen. People with migraines and things like that, epileptic fits, there's all sorts of testimonials there that where people have, it's changed. And I find them pretty amazing, for things like that. I find it's the repair kit for the body, X39. And
Yeah.
then, and when we're talking about training and things like that, X49. I've been on that for probably 8 months now. I was on it long before it came into Australia. I used to have it shipped out from America. And I found that um, it increases your strength. It's not it doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual thing. Um, like I was at the gym the other day and a weight stack I was doing a particular exercise on. I've never really done any more than 160 and I took it up to 190. Took up
Wow.
160 to 175, and I thought, well, that felt all right. I'll go again. I went up to 190, and I could do 190. Now, the gradual things that happen like that. I know our inventor, Dr. David Schmidt, he was saying that he's not a gym junkie by any means. He's always in the lab. And he was saying that he's gone from bench pressing 240 pound, which is pretty good, to 300 pounds since he's been on X49. I found that, as I said, it's increased strength, stamina. There's less chance of DOMS, or delayed onset of muscle soreness, or that pain that you get a day or two after you've had a hard workout. And the biggest thing for me, and the biggest thing I noticed the most, was that it burned a lot of body fat off me. As I said, I lost five kilos of body fat around my midsection after a few months of patching. And
Wow.
I've gone
So,
back to, I'm pretty well ripped down there now. And I've stayed, that was a few months ago, and I've stayed there. My weight has dropped. I was about 88, 89 kilos. I'm now down to about 84. My weight's consistent there. No changes with exercise or food or anything like that. The only difference was I put the patch on, and it's just sort of shredded me. They say that it does burn body fat. If it's increasing muscle mass, muscle uses fat for
yeah,
energy. So
yeah.
that just sort of makes sense. Things like your hair changing color and all those sorts of things. I don't know about me, but I find that my skin is really, really good. I've got plenty of elasticity in my skin and things like that. The collagen obviously must be building up. That's probably a combination of 39 and 49. But if anyone's an athlete or trains or does things in the gym where it requires an effort and that type of thing, I think the 49 is a real winner. I know it does other things for uh, protecting us from mobile phones and that type of thing, the energy that they put out. But there's certain things that I've noticed, and I've found them to be working with 39. I take the both together. When I'm training, I'll put a 49 on with a 39, and in the days that I'm not training, I won't put a 49 on.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know whether I'm a tight ass or what. I don't know. I mean, you could put it on and do it that way, but I just think, well, I'm not training today, so I won't worry about putting it on.
Right.
That's just me. I'm not saying that's the way you do it, but I've noticed some big changes with the X49, and some
Yeah.
great lifestyle changes with the X39. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
feel like I'm 17 again. I really do. I just feel like I've got heaps of energy. I'm just bounding out. I want to do things. I want to, it's just amazing the effect. And because I've exercised all my life, I think that keeps you young too. I've always tried to eat right, and lately I've been drinking a lot more water. That's a thing that David hounded on the other day. I saw a really, really good Zoom that he did on the benefits of good quality water. And he talked about his water machine and things like that, but he was just basically talking about water in general, having good water in your diet and plenty of it, flushing the toxins out that the patches are releasing, and just good for your bloods. It's good for everything. Our bodies are mostly water anyway, and we need to keep those levels up. Yeah.
Yeah, just to touch back on your shredded abs, Ken. Yeah, so you were mentioning before we came on live, actually, if you just share with us, because as a bit of a fitness, buff, you probably track your body fat percentage quite consistently. So what were you before you added the X49 in terms of body fat percentage? And then after sort of how long before you noticed the change, and what did you get to? Like, where are you at now with that?
Yeah. Well, before I was, oh dear, I was even though I was training, and I said sometimes my eating might go, I might put too much butter on or a little bit of salt or things like that. I don't go too bad with it, but my body fat was normally probably around about that 12, 13%, which is pretty good for a guy. I mean, most guys, anything under about 18 is pretty good.
Mm.
And then now with the 49, as I said, I lost that weight around the midsection. I'm sub 10. You know, I've got a machine I jump onto, and it's pretty reliable. I've had it all through the times when I used to do personal training, and I used to do this for clients and that. And I mean, sometimes it might be down as low as 8. You know, depending on what I've eaten for the last couple of days and that type of thing. Yeah, yeah.
And was that after a few months, or is that after 8 months that you've been using it?
Oh, look, I would say that's probably after about 4 or 5 months. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I mean, as I said, I didn't notice any sort of changes for the first couple of months, and then pretty much, and that was fairly sudden. I mean, within probably a month, my body fat just started to just fall away. So, I know David said that's one of the things with 49, but I I take it as I find it, you know. It might work for somebody, but it mightn't work for me. Well, it certainly did work for me, so that's how that's my spin on it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, great. Oh, that's fantastic.
yeah. And if it's as I said, if it's increasing muscle mass, well then it's burning body fats.
Mm.
I used to always relate to people as the body is think of it as a car engine.
Yeah.
Some of us are 4 cylinders, some of us are 6 cylinders, and some of us are V8s. If you put crap fuel in your car engine, it's not going to return what it should do. Your mileage is going to be crap. It's going to perform badly and that sort of stuff. You
Yeah.
put good fuel in it, look after it, give it servicing and that sorts of things, like with training and all those sorts of things. Your car engine will run at peak performance and you will feel better and it'll run a lot longer than it normally would, if that makes some sort of sense.
That makes total sense. We're all about that, aren't we, Karen?
We are indeed. Yes,
Yeah.
it makes so. So it's basically put in petrol in a diesel engine. Won't work, will it?
Yeah, you put water in your petrol and put it in your car. It's not going to work real good.
Oh, that's right.
We need
Yeah.
water, but
Yeah.
dirty fuel just doesn't turn the
Yeah.
kilometers around. You know. Yeah, I mean,
I was just going to add there, Ken, as well. I heard you mention butter and salt and stuff, and I just wanted to say, don't be afraid of butter and salt.
no,
Definitely don't be afraid of butter and salt. Yeah.
I love them. You know, I don't have the margarines and all the other sorts of things that they make, but and I mean my heart rate, my cholesterol, my blood pressure is perfect.
That's
I've
wonderful.
been lucky because it's always been that way, and I think that's because exercise has always looked after me that way. Um, I mean, I go with work we have checkups every 2 or 3 years. We have a medical checkup, and that's just something that work provides for us. I go in there, and the doctor or the nurse is there, and they say, "Oh, you're 66. What medications are you on?" And I said, "I'm on none." "You what? You've got to be on something." "No, I'm not, you know." "What's your blood pressure?" I said, "It's pretty good." And they put me on the cuff and that sort of checked me. I said, "Oh, that's pretty well spot on, you know." And I said, resting heart rate is, mid 50s, and things like that. And that they think that that's really unusual. Well, it shouldn't be. If you look after yourself, that should be the norm.
It shouldn't be, but it is unusual,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And
Mm.
I mean, I think people start following your steps with what you're about to do. I think those things will start turning around for them too.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
it's on that, it's not too late to join us in the foodandfrequencies.net and the turn the back the clock challenge. It's not too late. especially for, for the blokes out there too,
Oh, look, I think if people have got the opportunity to do what you girls are going to put on for them, they have got rocks in their head if they don't do it. Unless they're feeling wonderful and on top of the world, if they have anything wrong with them by eating right and by, having the right mindset and drinking plenty of water and getting exercise and all that sort of things, it will turn everyone's life around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree 100%, Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. And I had just a very quick question before we wrap up about it came to me. A lot of people who do exercise quite rigorously all their life can have a lot of free radicals, can't they, in their bodies? So you can actually stress your system with maybe too much exercise. Have you ever utilized any of the patches to help boost your antioxidants? And yeah.
I've never had that problem,
Yeah, cool.
They say that there are patches there that are really, really good for that sort of thing. But it's never been a thing for me. I mean, and again, I don't know too much about exercise creating free radicals. That's yeah. So
Only if the food's really bad, generally.
yeah,
Normally, if you're eating junk food and you're eating food that is causing an inflammatory process going on in your body, that's when you get the free radicals. And also when your nutrition levels are bad.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what happens with the free radicals. So yeah, I'm not surprised, Ken, you haven't encountered any problems with it.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I just can't talk enough about doing the right thing by your body, and your body will do the right thing by you. And we all want long, healthy, long lives. And as I said, I'm 66 and I feel like I'm 17. I mean, I can't talk enough about it. I really can't. Yeah.
Ditto. I agree, Ken.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, well, we really look forward to having you in the network next week workshop. I think it's going to be really, I mean, you've dropped a lot of nuggets today and some clues for people around how to get started and with those 3 different types of strength training and things like that. But it's going to be great to dig a little deeper and learn, create our own programs. Basically, I'm really
Well, I mean, this has been my passion for life, and if I can help anyone, I'm more than happy to do that. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Ken.
Okay, right.
Looking forward to it, Ken. See you next week.
Talk to you later.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.